What You Gotta Do is on now. Hello and welcome to What You Gotta Do podcast with your hosts today, Cody and KT. This is where we discuss relatable topics and we inspire one another to live a simple, abundant life. Greetings and salutations, Ms. Cody. How are you?
I am fantastic this week, KT. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm super excited about this episode. And also, I want to say to our What You Gotta Doers, thank you so much for all your support and listening and subscribing. It's really helped us and it's really encouraged us. And we're just so excited to keep bringing you really good, great guests. And speaking of great guests, we have two awesome, great guests today. Cody, it is my honor and privilege to introduce Officer Ken Newell and Officer Robyn Newell. Not only are they two outstanding police officers and heroes in their community, but Robyn is Cody's cousin. Ken and Robyn have been married for 13 years, and let me tell you a little bit about Ken and Robyn. Ken has been a police officer for 18 years. He's been on SWAT, Mountain Rescue, and is a field training officer and a motor cop. Robyn has been a police officer for 14 years. She's a hostage crisis negotiator, a field training officer. They met at a late nice dance. Is that what you meant to write, Robyn? At the water
Late
park
night,
where
I'm
we were
sure.
working security. So I want to welcome Ken and Robyn Newell. They are police officers in Utah. Welcome, Robyn and Ken.
So welcome, Robyn and Ken. Very excited to have you on, my cousins. Very fun. Anyway, so my favorite story of Robyn, I have so many stories of Robyn growing up. So I was in the middle of Stacy, Robyn's sister. So Stacy, myself, and Robyn, I think we're almost the same distance apart month-wise, but
pretty much.
we just run amok. We caused a lot of trouble. But Robyn is all about anything glittery and like over the top. She loves it and she owns it. She wanted to like own a riding lawnmower at some point.
Yes,
And,
I still am waiting.
We'll move to Oklahoma and I'll buy you one if that's the bribe. So my favorite story is last year she helped me move out to Oklahoma. So we flew her into Albuquerque and it was an emotional time for me, packing up my house, selling my house, moving out of another state. And she gets off the plane and I hug her and I'm ready to have a breakdown because I'm just emotionally exhausted and physically exhausted. And Robyn just tells me, no crying. And I was like, I snapped back and I was shocked and I was like, okay, not today, not today. I was like trying to choke back the tears. That is the women in our family. There's no crying.
Absolutely.
For the women in our family. Right. So anyway, I'm very excited because I think Robyn's a badass. So between Robyn and Ken, they have 7 children.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. 7 children and they're full-time police officers. So in their careers, I have heard a couple of stories. Robyn got to share, she shared several with me throughout the years, but also last year when we were together moving out here. So I just want to talk about their careers, why they chose that, the changes that they've seen over time, and also talk about this wonderful award that they both received together, the Life Saving Award. So
I'm so excited to hear all about that. This is going to be awesome.
So, Ken, you started before Robyn. You've been in a little bit longer. Why did you choose a career with the police force?
My grandpa was a cop in Vernal, and my dad was a cop. And, just my whole life growing up, I just told myself that's what I was going to do.
So it's like in your blood.
Well, I guess, but it always intrigued me. It was exciting to me, and I got going right along with my dad once in a while, and I'd get excited, and the adrenaline dump when we'd do a traffic stop. It was nothing to him. He'd done it for so long, but it was the thing. It was just so neat for me.
That is fantastic. And Robyn, what about you? You were a mom for a long time. Well, you still are a mom. You're always a mom.
Done with that mommy.
Never. I took the law enforcement class in high school. My dad is a paramedic. My mom's an ER nurse. So we grew up being around all of that chaos that's there. Stories. We would get to go to events with my dad and the ambulance crew, and it was just something fun. I got married really young and had my kids, and then when my first marriage was ending, um, I I had already wanted to be a police officer. A lady moved in directly next to us, and she was a sergeant for the highway patrol. And she just said, "Oh my gosh, you would do fabulous. This would be so fun to have you." And I got thinking about it more and more, and I needed to have a a fail safe, something that I could count on for myself and my kids. And so I put myself through. My husband at the time was not in town at all. He worked out of town a lot, so I did the whole police academy, and the divorce went through and all of that by myself, and it was because I needed something that I could support myself with, but also the aspect of taking care of my kids and helping the people in the community. That has always been a big thing with us.
That is you. Your family is so involved in everything. Like your mom is always such a go-getter. You guys are like involved in everything. It exhausts me to hear all the things that you do, especially the two of you as a couple. I mean, you were running an Airbnb. Are you still doing that? You're into hunting and fishing, and you have a boat, and you go camping, and you're like the busiest people on earth. It exhausts me. I don't know how you do it.
We don't have the Airbnb anymore. Our oldest, he got married last year and needed a place to live. Housing everywhere is crazy, and so he lives in the basement of that house, and we rented out the top, and we bought another house.
Okay, so you still have that. So you're still
out.
landlords, but just not having to do
Yeah.
the day-to-day Airbnb stuff.
Yeah, the Airbnb was really fun. Unbeknownst to us, surprisingly, a lot of our guests that would come were law enforcement. And we didn't advertise that. And honey, correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't advertise that on our bio in our Airbnb. And it just happened that we had officers from all over the U.S. and things come and find out that we're officers, and it was really fun.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's so bizarre. How did that, like, is there a dark web Airbnb that has like secret police officer
It
house?
actually developed where they would contact us directly and not through Airbnb wanting to come and stay. So there was actually kind of some relationships that were built. And so we met a lot of great people. We met a few that we didn't like so much. But yeah,
Right.
So
There's always
we get a
those.
phone call, hey, I'm coming into town, are you available or not? And so it was really neat the way that the relationships developed.
That's so cool. Very cool. You guys are like little hustlers. I know that. You're hustling all the time to do stuff for sure. Okay, so tell me some more. I remember one story, Robyn, you texted me, and it was the story of you found drugs on this lady and she kept like pulling out. Do you remember that story?
It is an occurrence. So in our valley, we have not had a whole lot of female officers. And so I like to work the swing shift, which is 2 p.m. to midnight. It's busy. We're just going. With us not having as many females as we need, I would end up going outside of my city to do female searches for other officers and other agencies. Numerous occasions, I have to go search a female, and on several, they have had drugs, needles up into the orifices of the body that nothing should ever be there. And I have had to, retrieve those items. And this one where it just still
Retrieve.
Yes,
Retrieve those items.
That's the sensitive word. But
did you wear gloves?
This one had, yes, double up. You double up. But this one girl had told me that she had a needle up inside her, and I said, okay, would you get it? She pulled it out, and it was an uncapped needle fully loaded with heroin. and she had it up inside her body. And I'm very surprised it did not kill her. But no, that's how she would carry her drugs.
Insane.
Uncapped.
Oh,
Yes, I know. I
like there's so many details I have to just stop and think about in that story that are wrong.
I'm guessing it was
So
capped
wrong.
when the insertion was done, and then the cap came off.
It somehow came
And
off.
Probably
I
was
did
later
ask her
found.
if there was a cap. I did ask if there was a cap, and she said no, there wasn't a cap left up inside her.
Wow.
So,
Well, remember that one that you found like bags of, she had just had, how many, 16 bags of, there were several bags of cocaine that you had found in her, or balls of cocaine, and she kept pulling them out and she didn't know how
Yeah.
they got there or whatever.
yep, that was
I hate when that happens.
again up
I don't know how they got there.
inside the cavity. We get all the time, even guys, these aren't my pants. They'll say, these aren't my pants. But yet there's drugs in the pockets and things. And I say, well, whose pants are they? You're wearing them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Ken, what are some crazy stories you've run across?
I would imagine nothing surprises you anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for 1 second. How do you, Robyn, on our call the other night, you kind of came off of a pretty rough day where it started off with a pretty sad event with a child. How do you leave that and compartmentalize it and come home and be a mom and come home and be a dad, or go home and like coach soccer or what? I mean, how do you move on from that?
You become pretty numb to a lot of stuff. And it really, I mean, they all say in the line of work, it's just the end of the day and we've dealt with it. And it comes true. But there are times where there are things that can't really be dealt with. You just kind of have to learn to accept them because it's never going to go away. When I first started, I was witness to a rollover accident, and the occupants of the van were thrown out. Drove over as fast as I could, jumped out, and the lady's screaming, my baby, my baby. And I see this 6-year-old girl that's crying, screaming on the sidewalk. So I pick her up and I says, here's your baby. And she says, no, my baby. Well, I decided to look under the van, and all I could see was the top of his head. He was crushed. Me and 6 other guys picked the van up off of the baby and put it back on its wheels. And there was just this, just an exhale. And right then I knew that baby was no longer. And so
Wow.
that will always carry with me, but it will always remind me that there are going to be times where you need to be prepared physically and mentally to just do what we need to do. There's a human element to everything, and we're all human. So just got to move forward.
That is deep, dude. Oh, I'm so sorry that you experienced that like beginning of your career, but it's inevitable, right? It's bound
It is.
to happen. That's what you do that. That's part of your serving your community.
One of my favorite stories that I get to tell people is when our little boy was born. I was working graveyards, and I was so tired, and Mom was working swing shift. And I was getting to the point, the end of my rope with him. Okay, and we hear cases all over the country about this, the shaken baby syndrome and all that stuff. And divine intervention took over, no matter what the divine part is. But I went to a 9-day-old baby death, and seeing the devastation with that, it turned me around 180 degrees. It's like, dude, you're losing it. They just lost their baby. Why would you ever lose it to the point to where you could lose yours? You know, and
don't be that person,
exactly,
right? Don't
it
be
just
that.
turned me around. My heart was so broke for these people, but I'd never once felt the way I was feeling with him, whether I was exhausted, graveyard swing shift, it didn't matter, but it all just turned around for me. And it's like, okay, I love my son. I can't get frustrated with him anymore. I just got to move through it.
I think we all have those moments as parents, those like awakening moments where you know you have to change a behavior. It's a tough one.
Hopefully. Hopefully we all have
Hopefully.
those
Yeah.
moments.
Hopefully you're in tune and want to change that behavior and be a better parent. So good for you for recognizing that.
There's really no way to compartmentalize a lot of the things that officers, first responders, even those working in hospitals, there really is no way. Like Ken said, you get numb, you push those feelings away, and you move on to the next. Because it was, let's see, shortly after we had gotten married, I went on a call with this lady whom we had dealt with numerous times. She was an alcoholic. She had two kids. Before she turned into an alcoholic, she was a very beautiful woman who was an aspiring just person. She was really successful in college, and then had a boyfriend that just got her into some negative things. She ended up getting married, had two kids, and then life just went downhill from there. But the call that I went on with her was she was not breathing. Go to the call. She passed away. She drank so much, she aspirated, and medics get there and they check her out, and there was nothing they could do. They called it, and then on to the next call. And I remember calling Ken after that, just going, I realized I've hit that point in my career, and I was only a few years in, and just said, I just went on this woman that we all knew. She passed away. Her daughters were there, and now I'm on to the next call, and there was no processing emotion, nothing. It was just, okay, next call. And we had a discussion about how if we were to emotionally deal with every call that we went on, whether it be happy, sad, something small, we would never make it. That it would kill us.
I think that's so intriguing what you said. You are dealing with humans, human lives, human interactions, horrible crises. We get emotional about, I don't know, whatever you're doing, but we have to process it and learn how to process it like you do, where you just kind of move on, right? It's just a thing that happened.
I don't know. Maybe that's what that really means. Blessed are the peacemakers.
That's a gift. What you're good at.
I don't
Do
know.
what you're good at, right?
Right. And like Ken said, there are things there are days that, in certain times of the year, just like anybody else, December 7th is a really difficult day for me every year. I was just pregnant with our now going to be 11-year-old, and I went on a little boy who had been sick, and he stopped breathing. And mom had taken him to the doctor. Mom had done everything humanly possible that you would do as a parent. He was sick. He was vomiting, throwing up. He just wasn't feeling good. And then he stopped breathing. And I remember standing in that living room and the medics working on him for 40 minutes straight before they transported him and get to the hospital. And the doctors and the nurses were working on him, and just the vigorous way that nobody wanted to quit because this is a child. And I was standing out in the hall just because there was so many people in that trauma room, and the nurses coming out just with tears running down their face. And it was very difficult, and you just end up feeling what you're feeling. And I'm standing there with other nurses when they called it, and everybody, there was not a dry eye in the room. And everybody was crying, and the way that they treated this little boy with so much reverence and love after that. I mean, it's not saying they didn't before, but it's a very, that day comes along, and I remember, everything, and those parents. We talk a lot about sad stuff, but there's so much good stuff that we do as well.
I was just going to say, what are some of the favorite things that you do?
Right now, my position is an SRO. I'm a school resource officer. So I am over a junior high, which in itself is very difficult. And I have two elementary schools. We are actually, and Ken is going to be part of this, we are having an event called Cops and Bobbers. We are teaching these kids, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, how to fish. surprisingly, a lot of guys in our department, that's what family does. You go to escape, and it's away from media, it's away from social media, away from phones, house, everything. Get back with nature, and um, just to go and talk to these kids about learning how to fish, which is something our family loves to do, is so exciting. And just building those relationships and letting the kids know we don't just shoot people, that we're parents, and it's fun when I get to go to the schools because they always say, "Oh, you're Strider's mom, you're Gunner's mom," and that's my name. I'm Strider and Gunner's mom, and that's the fun part. And they see Ken on his motorcycle, and they know that's Strider and Gunner's dad. And we get to just be out in the community and do fun things. Ken got to coach the boys' soccer team last year, and that was really fun. It was trying, but it was really fun.
So you're on a bike now, Ken?
Yeah, I'm actually
You're a motor cop now? You got like the Chips mustache going on. So you're like playing the part.
Yeah,
man.
I'm the lead motor. I'm an instructor, and I've got 3 guys that I work with, and they're all just the basic, but we're trying to get them through the instructor course. And so, yeah, I'm on a motorcycle every day, and they pay me to do it. It's amazing.
That is so funny. Robyn, how is that okay with you? There's really nothing you could do. Ken's his own person. You're not going to tell him what to do.
Oh yeah, it's the
They're like, are you okay with that?
It's the funnest just to listen to them on the radio when their team is doing traffic control or they get a bad accident, and you can tell when we hear things over the radio with other guys, the emotion that's there, and it's fun to hear when they get some high speed ones, or somebody's chasing after somebody else. That's really fun to hear on the radio because you can hear it in their voice.
I only can just think, picturing us growing up in your basement watching Chips with your dad. Honestly, that's all I think of.
Yeah.
That's all I could think of. And then with your mustache, the way it's going, I just can't.
Oh, this is only 2 weeks.
Everything has
It's
come
only
full circle.
2 weeks, Cody. Give it another 3 or 4 weeks. It's, I love it.
Gosh. What's the goal? What's the end game with the beard?
I can't.
What's
I'm
the
on my
end game?
days off. I can't have a beard. I can have a mustache. It's not supposed to. Yeah,
You
it's
can
not
have a
supposed to go below the corner of my mouth, and so.
No handlebars.
Yeah, basically. And so I wanted to hit on the
That's
cops and
so
bobbers thing, and I don't know if most people would understand.
Yes, please.
Last year it was Brats with Cops, and they'd pick a location, and people would come and eat hot dogs and brats.
Brats with cops. That's cute.
Yeah,
I love
right.
it.
And so it's every year we're trying to find a way to entice people to come and visit with us and realize, hey, we're just people. We wear this uniform, but we're people too. Come, let's chat. Oh, you like fishing? So do I. Mm-hmm. And try to connect with them.
I have such a passion for first responders because obviously I have so many in my family that represent that specific area. So I will always support you in the first responders. Giving back to what you do, it's been hard to find ways to get involved because I don't have a lot of time. During COVID, I gave a lot of snacks and bought like pancake mix and maple syrup and dropped it off at fire stations. And I got meat and stuff, dropped it off at fire stations. I would get baked goods and deliver them to the police officers, things like that. It's silly. You don't really need that in your life. But what ways, I know you've seen a huge change in the community over the years. What ways can we support you in what endeavors, especially as the defund the police is happening? And whatever side of the spectrum you're on, no matter what you believe, we have to have police officers. We do. We have to have law enforcement helping us regulate our lives on a normal basis. So what can we do for you?
I think the aspect in everybody's community that we talk to, I go to training, I talk to different people, just the aspect of being a kind person in our community. We've lost that. And there's so many different things, but I think ways to support the police and first responders is, one, don't set yourself up to be a victim. Meaning there's so many different things. Around here, we have this this idea that we live in such a safe community, and then people become victims and they don't realize just simple things like locking your car, locking your house, turning your outside lights on, things like that. I love the Jerry Maguire saying, help me, help you. But that's exactly it. And it's go back to the golden rule of treat people how you would want to be treated, and take care of your things. In addition to, you would never go and damage somebody else's property because you don't want that to happen to you. And so for me, that's the biggest one, mostly because I deal with kids, and that's what I try to teach them is, the environment that kids are growing up in now is so far different than when we grew up. And just the language that's used, the access to all of, and we could go on a soapbox on that itself, but just the kind of person that you want to be. Don't be the negative, and don't be the victim. Set yourself up to where you're, be proud of what you have, what you are, and don't have that mentality of, well, everything bad's going to happen.
I agree. And I think I would add to that also, seek out opportunities. I think sometimes we get stuck in these cycles of Groundhog's Day, basically, where you wake up and you do the same thing over and over, and you don't really realize you have developed bad habits, or you have gotten into some sort of a funk, or whatever you want to call it. But I think when you seek out opportunities, it's just a way to move that energy out a little bit and do more with your life.
Well, and it's simple enough. We had garbage day the other day, and our neighbor across the street is not in town a whole lot. Family comes and takes his garbage out and things, and he hasn't been in town. So I asked our little Gunner, hey, Gunner, I know he's out of town. His truck is not here. Will you go bring his garbage cans in? And he was like, why? Why do I have to do that? And so, a good teaching moment, even as parents, but, a good neighborly moment of, hey, he's not here. Let's help him out. Just something simple about that we can be there for each other, and it gives him a learning moment.
I agree. Serving others, the random acts of kindness, right?
And Ken, we had talked about some. You had some ideas.
One of the biggest things that's been really cool for me is how many times I'll be sitting at a traffic light waiting for it to turn green because I'm going to or from a call, and I get a honk, and I'm like, where'd that come from? And I'll look left, and there's a window down in the car next to me. They're like, thank you for everything you do. And that happens so much. Ever since the whole COVID thing, any movement that we're talking about, people in our area have really taken it upon themselves to tell law enforcement and paramedics and firemen, thank you for everything you do. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things. If you get the opportunity, and you do appreciate them, just let them know.
Yeah.
So
I have a client that I know, and she is the most giving person. If you even have a police department t-shirt on there, she buys meals all the time for families and thanks them for their service. And she just does all these little things for first responders that are just so kind and thoughtful. And, they just go a long ways. They do. You guys put your lives on the line for us every single day, whether you realize it or not, no matter where you live, right? It's just, that's it. You potentially could lose your life, unfortunately.
We just had a police officer move in a couple houses down. And when me and Matt came around the corner and saw his car parked there, we were like, hallelujah. We were so happy to see a cop on our street.
When I lived in your neighborhood, Katie, I had a couple police officers in my neighborhood, and no one ever messed with us. But it was awesome. I appreciate y'all.
That's the funniest part with us is they'll see two police cars, people in the neighborhood, and I've had a couple officers say, "Oh, you guys just moved." I had some friends saying, "Why are there two police cars there?" I mean, the running joke is that we say that it's a spare for Ken, and if people ask, if I work, or I say yes, I do work, and the running joke is I work for the city sanitation department and things, because trying to explain to them why we have two police cars, some people just cannot grasp it. And it's just funny.
I wanted to ask you, Robyn, being a female, what is the percentage of females maybe you only know in your department, in your city, county, whatever, it's probably growing, a lot more females joining the force, but do you know what percentage you are at right now and compared to when you started? Or
We are probably still, I would say, only at 2 or 3%.
Wow.
We have
oh my gosh, I
we
thought it was a
have
lot more.
7 in my department. Yeah, 7 compared to what are we up to 130 officers
Wow.
ish, and we only have 7, and that's about comparable throughout our county and throughout the
But
valley.
it just, do you think in
Is
Utah alone, or do you think it's similar throughout the nation?
I don't know. I hear
I need
of.
to look up our
I
statistics.
went to a training in Vegas, and they had quite a few more. So it might just be Utah. It might just be because
I can see that.
our primary role that we preach to everybody is be a mom, get married, have kids, be a mom.
Very Christian, very
know?
old school Christian. Yeah.
Yes, that's been a difficult thing for me because women don't necessarily like to talk to me. Neighbors and things, they're very standoffish once they find out what I do, and
They're
it's
intimidated.
they
Yeah, because you're going to
yes.
kick our ass.
Well,
That's how they feel.
Yeah, but I love to talk gardening, baking, kids. all
Robyn
that
and I
stuff,
love the domestic
and
life.
women,
Like, we have like these careers, but we
Yes.
love the domestic life too. Like,
I do. Okay, I hate cooking, and Ken will attest. I hate
love
it, but I will clean the crap out of anything.
she's a,
And so yeah, it's hard because most women around here are moms. They just are stay at home, which I can't say just that because that in itself is a huge deal and people don't realize it. But it's a big thing, and people always say, "Oh my gosh, how do you work full time and have all these kids?" Well, we have grown kids, and we have our youngest two that are 9 and 10 that are pretty self sufficient. But we do rely
Yeah, they have to be. Yeah,
on our bigger kids to help out.
you're a family. That's what you do.
It doesn't take away from the fact that we're worried our youngest will burn the house down. However, I mean,
it's
That
very
is true.
possible.
I have said
Very possible.
he is our solution for any domestic country's problem. We're just going to send
He's
him
like an
there.
atomic bomb ready to go off.
Yes.
Well, I always thought that for sure women should be investigators
Oh, right. We can like,
in the departments because my husband can't find anything, and he always turns to me, and I thought,
ouch. Ouch.
why are men
KT,
investigating?
ouch.
Let the women do it.
that's so funny.
Oh, we don't have any females that have been in investigations as of yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but I don't think we have had anybody in our CID, which is our crimes division, or our special victims unit. We have not
There
had.
was one before you came on. We had one in CAD.
That's interesting.
Detectives.
KT, you watch true crime. Are there very many like women solvers of true crimes?
I don't know, but I love him. I watched that show, Cold Case or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah,
with
yeah,
that
yeah.
woman from Texas that I saw at the airport. She solves everything. I love her.
Well, Ken and Robyn didn't solve something, but they were recipients of the life-saving award. Can you tell us about how that happened? I'm so proud of you guys. First of all, it doesn't surprise me. Like, how many times has our family been involved in some ordeal at Lake Powell when we were on family vacation where some idiot
Yep.
like fell overboard and we rescued him, or, like, we've had so many incidences of that as a family. So it doesn't surprise me, but I'm happy that you got honored, and I would love to hear the story.
I'm so excited to hear this story. I've been waiting for this.
We were up in Salt Lake for a ceremony that they were doing, and we happened to it had to be our Class A uniforms, and so we were looking all sharp and great. And we get up there and we get through it. We're done, and we're coming home. And I didn't put gas in the car, my police car, and so we had to find a gas station. So normally we would have just gotten right on the freeway and gone. After we get gas, it takes me about 15 minutes to find a way on the freeway because I don't know Salt Lake City at all, right? So this is where my belief of the divine intervention, whoever that may be, took place. It took us 15 minutes longer to get on the freeway. So anyway, we finally get on the freeway. Traffic to the right starting to slow down. We're looking ahead going, what's going on? As we're getting closer, it was just so weird. There's a diesel and its right front tire's up over the 4-foot barrier. and it's kind of sitting on a slant, you know. And so I looked at Rob and I'm like, all right, should we stop? Because in a lot of cases, people get out and people are fine and it just takes traffic control. But we're not from up north. We're headed home. And well, we both looked at each other and said, we better stop. And so we pull over, I turn my lights on, and just as I'm trying to communicate with Highway Patrol about the crash, Robyn jumps out of the car and she starts going up towards the diesel. And so this is where Robyn's going to take it over.
So, what was funny about our conversation on the way, one of our officers, and a little preface, we lost one of our brothers in a shooting 3 years ago. So that's what we were in Salt Lake for. It was to put his name on the wall of fallen officers. So as we're coming down, there's multiple officers that, we're making our way back home. And one of our officers says, hey, there's an accident up here. I passed it. I couldn't get to it. And we kind of look at each other going, well, that's about a half a mile away. Should we stop? And we were having this discussion in the car. And I said, well, we are in our uniforms and we are in a police car. We probably should. So here we are, ties, shiny shoes, everything, the whole works. And we get up there, and as we pull up, Ken is switching the channel to get on with highway. And I see two guys pulling the driver out of the diesel. And so I had said, where's your gloves? Where's your gloves? He's right there. Put some gloves on, because you never know what you're going to get into. And go trucking up there. And they had pulled the driver out, who was non-responsive, put him on the ground. So I get up there and say, what do we have? And you can just see this look of just shock on these couple other guys' faces. So I did the very quickest assessment I've ever done. Not breathing, no pulse. Okay, let's do CPR. And so I had said, okay, I know my limit is about, and this gentleman was not a big gentleman, but he was a truck driver, so he's a little bit bigger. And I said, okay, I only have about a minute's worth of CPR in me, so I need somebody to rotate. As I started CPR, I watched one of the guys just back off because he just could not process it, and he shut down. And so I'm doing CPR. Ken is on the radio to Highway Patrol, letting him know what we're doing, where we're at, the situation. One other gentleman stopped and was right there by me, and we're doing CPR. And I said, okay, we need to rotate. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. And he got there, was doing CPR, and then Ken spelled him out and was doing CPR as I just kind of got up into the cab to see if I could find some sort of ID to find out how old this gentleman was. And I would say 4 to 5 minutes, maybe. Is that correct, Ken, that we did CPR?
I think it was like 12 to 13 minutes.
It could have been. When you're doing something like that, you just keep doing it. And I remember when I first started CPR, I've done CPR before, but feeling every bit of this gentleman and an effective CPR, you actually break ribs. And that was weird, but also in the moment you've got this adrenaline dump. And the gentleman that was helping us, his name is Justin, he was sitting there. I could hear him gasp when the ribs break. And so to myself, we trained singing to the song Staying Alive. So I'm singing to myself, staying alive, while I'm doing CPR, because that's the rhythm that we have trained to. And then he started, as we're doing CPR, we another Highway Patrol officer comes, and then finally the paramedics come and load him up into the ambulance, and off they go. And we're standing there going, okay, job's done.
Let's go back home.
Let's go home.
Here we're done.
Yeah. And so that's what we did. And then come to find out that the highway officer needed some of our information. So he called our dispatch, and she gave them the information, and that just got out to the news. And what happened was this gentleman had no previous heart issues, no really big health issues, and he ended up having a 5 bypass and just had a massive heart attack. And we got to go up. It was about 2 weeks after his surgery, maybe a week. We got to go up and meet with him and meet face to face and have lunch, and that was really fun. And his wife had flown out from Illinois. They were from Illinois.
So he wasn't even
And
local. He was one of those cross-country truck drivers. Wow.
Long haul.
yep. And so every
Well,
year
see-
at Christmas, we get a card.
Oh,
You saved his life. Oh my
it's-
gosh. Well,
And it was just right place, right time.
that's incredible.
The interesting thing about it was that the people that were helping him out of the truck said he was semi-conscious when they opened the door, and then just nothing and dropped and hit the floor. And so, with that information, we knew right then that this is immediate. There shouldn't be any loss of oxygen or blood. The doctors told Highways is if they hadn't done what they did, this dude would have died for sure. And the only reason he's alive is because of their response and that they knew what to do. And he called it quality effective CPR. And I'm a CPR instructor.
Are
now.
you? And a
I am.
motorbike
I am.
instructor?
There's master non jack of all
Seriously?
trades, right? So anyway, I finally realized what good quality CPR is, and they talk about perfusion. And if you go too fast, the heart won't fill up with blood to push back through the body. If you go too slow, it's not filling up with it. Too fast, it won't. You're not pushing blood out. If you go too slow and you're going too deep and not allowing that perfusion, you're not getting the blood flow. We offer a whole course where, when I was given this course, it just hit home. It's like, oh wow, I didn't know I was doing it to that level, but now that I've learned that level, I do it. I make sure I do it every time.
do you teach the course for just other police officers, or is it to the public as well?
It's offered to anyone. We were given a grant, and we've got these amazing dummies that you get instant feedback as to how quality your CPR is, and it's Bluetooth up to an iPad, and it shows if you're too right, too left, too low, too high, too fast.
It's been years since I've had CPR training. I should probably go back through that with something like that. I would like that.
I think that's my what you got to do. I should take a CPR class. I haven't done it since my boys were born.
Yeah.
Because it's real. I mean, it hasn't changed, but the practice dummies have changed, right? Like the technique is still the same.
No, the technique's
Is
completely
it different now? Okay, I'm going.
It is, because back when we were kids in high school, they said 30 and 1 or 30 and 2, right? So 30 compressions to 2 breaths. We don't even do breaths anymore.
Really?
No, it's just straight compressions. Don't stop. Because the minute you stop, the minute you take your hands off that body and you stop perfusion, it all goes down to the bottom. And we use the representation of a farmer's well where he's trying to get water out of the
Right.
hammer. Well, he forgot his bucket 10 feet away, so he has to, now that he's got water, he walks over, gets the bucket, and now he's got to repump all that again. And so the minute you stop the CPR, all the blood's going right back down, and it takes about 16 seconds to get that heart back to capacity to start flowing. The body will sustain oxygen for 40 minutes. So all you got to do is just make sure the blood keeps going.
I definitely need to go. I would have probably given somebody mouth to mouth, and inappropriately so. Like
They wouldn't have complained, Cody, if they lived.
Katie, I like it. Let's do it. I'm going to hold you accountable for that. Let's take a class. I encourage our listeners to take a class too. Like, I think we all need to come up to speed, level up on your CPR classes.
Well, you really, truly, honestly, just never know when that's going to happen. I mean, we were heading home and nothing. And, there's other instances where people just have it happen. At our rec center, people will just fall over, and, you just never know. And I always encourage moms, especially with younger kids, do a first aid class, do choking, do all of the things that you need to do with your kids. But it's not only that, it's just be more aware of what our bodies are doing at certain ages in time.
So kind of going back to what you were saying, to be able to do CPR, you have to have some strength behind you
Yes.
to do so. You have to be in shape to do it. And I think that's so great. You guys take care of yourselves very well. I know you're going to the gym consistently and you take care of yourself.
You don't realize, but it takes every muscle in your body to do effective CPR. And it is tiring. It is like you are in a full-on fight for your life for however many minutes that you can do. And it is exhausting. But not only going back to the aspect of working out, I think a lot of us that are in law enforcement do that because it helps us process everything that we dealt with. It's an emotional thing. It's a release of all of that. And if we're not taking care of ourselves one way or another, the job will get you.
I can only imagine.
Cody, did you know that I have 3 life-saving awards?
Ken,
I was going to bring that up.
Didn't know that.
So what years?
I have been nominated for 3 and received 3. And one of my favorite stories is my buddy Will. He was in the bathroom getting ready for the day, tipped over backwards. His wife calls 911. And so we get up there, and I find his toes are wedged under the countertop, or the cabinet, and he's backwards, and they're just stiff as a board. And so, what do? I grab both these arms, and I start dragging him into the front room, so I have a place to work with him, and the wife's around the corner crying, screaming.
And you know
Kids
this
are
guy?
running around.
You got called?
I did not know him
you didn't
before.
know him okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
Did not know him before.
Okay.
Nope. And so anyway, we do the CPR on him, and there was me and another officer, and I just remember when I had to switch with this other officer, there was a little bit of groaning that was coming from Will, and so the officer had stopped, like, what was that? And I'm like, don't stop, keep going, dude, just keep going. And this is before becoming an instructor. But anyway, the paramedics who were on scene knew who I was. They didn't know who the other officer was, and they put us in for the life-saving award on that one. And so, like 2 weeks ago, I was teaching the Citizens Academy, and I had no idea he was in the Citizens Academy. I was teaching the mountain rescue portion, and it's where we take them up on a tower and make them rappel. And I'm talking to everybody. I'm looking. I see in the crowd, and I look, and he's sitting in the back, like. He doesn't know if I remember this guy, or maybe I wouldn't remember.
So he remembered you?
He remembers me. And so I pointed right at him and says, "What are you doing, man?" And so he comes forward through the crowd and gives me this big old hug. Everybody melts, and so I get to tell them the story of why Will's still here and why Will still has 3 more kids, and
3 more kids. Cool. I don't know if he's going to thank you for that.
So, yeah. So anyway, we got to talk, and I mean, sometime through the last 8 years, I ended up at his house picking the locks on his house because he locked himself out. So there's been little elements throughout the time that it's like he's showed up in my life
several times. Huh?
Why? I don't know, but it's okay.
It sounds like the great makings of a movie.
Does.
Ken and Will.
It could be, absolutely could be.
That is cool.
It's neat.
I'm so proud of you two. I really am. Like, there's that country song, Famous Friends. I don't know if you know that. When I think of that song, I sent it to Katie. I'm like, these are my cousins. Like, they're famous in my world, and I appreciate that they're famous for what you do and just for being good people. And I just love you and appreciate you. So keep doing what you're doing. Go kill it.
Yeah, and I really want to thank you for your service. That's what you guys do. I could never do. And where would we be without people like you? Thank you so much.
I genuinely agree. They're like salt of the earth people who would come and rescue you from anything. And I'm glad that you're in my family and on my team.
They say there's a certain crazy you have to be to run toward the fire or to run toward the gunfire and that is true. Our family, I would say, but in any given situation, I think most people would run toward the fire if there was an opportunity to help somebody and to save somebody. A lot of officers don't say it, but I think on an everyday basis, somebody should be getting an award just for being there, doing a job, talking to somebody off a cliff, and that happens more times than not, where we end up dealing with the mental health aspect, and just people just want somebody to listen and to validate them. And I think that goes for any profession. Even those cute McDonald's workers that come in and take the gentleman's order, every day, and they just listen to him and say hi. That in itself is award winning, just because they're there for that person.
It's service.
Service.
It's what it boils down to. Is
As far as a message that I would like to tell everybody, that there's a human element in everything, and it doesn't matter what situation you're in, whether you put yourself in it or not. 95% of the people we deal with are really, really, really good people, and they've just made a bad choice. The other 5%, it starts to whittle down to pure evil. Okay, so luckily we only have to deal with 5% of that. But if everybody that might listen to this podcast can just understand that the human element also applies to us.
When I first started there, one of my instructors said, there are times when he's gone back to his car and cried or whatever in a thing. And that's absolutely true. I mean, and maybe just being female, but there are times when I've been on accidents and things, and the tears just come, and I'm trying to do traffic control, and I'm just bawling because of whatever happened. And, my brothers and sisters that I work with, they all know, they all understand. And, there's sometimes where they say, oh, leave work at work. you just can't.
Sometimes you can't.
You can't. And it, some things have happened with our little boys. And like we said, our gunner is crazy. But, it's hard to tell people that we live in a different world than most people do. We have to have those open conversations with our kids, with our family members. One, it helps us get through it. And two, we don't want them to become victims. And they need to have an aspect of what we go through. But one time I had my older girls, and I was taking them home, and there was a guy screaming just a couple blocks away and covered in blood. And so I'm close. I go there, and he was intoxicated and things, and just covered in blood because he'd punched a window. And my girls were there to see that, and we had a discussion afterwards, and we got him taken care of, and just about how life is and some of the demons people deal with. But when I talk to little kids, they're like, do you take people to jail? And it's really hard to explain to our little people that we are there to keep everybody safe. And sometimes the way I like to describe it is, I meet the best people on their very worst days.
Yeah.
And, when I explain it, sometimes we just need a timeout. Sometimes jail is that safe timeout because we don't want them to hurt somebody else or themselves. And it's a safe place for them to go.
You two are amazing human beings. Amazing, amazing.
I would really like to invite you guys back to get into specific conversations, like protecting your kids from pornography or how to protect yourself, or more specifics. Would you be willing to come back on our podcast again?
Absolutely.
Anything for Cody.
Anything for me. Oh.
No, I love to help others, but just, common sense things that people don't realize. I think, we talk a lot about the mental health aspect and things, and, people deal with different things on different levels every single day. And you can see somebody that's just plain in survival mode. And that's what we need to be able to notice as a community to help our fellow, members of the community, that, the mom standing in line with 3 of her kids crying, or, just something like that. But I would absolutely love to come and just share the things that I've learned in my career and in Ken's career, and, things that we talked about, even as a family growing up with my mom being working in the ER. But yes, I would love it. We could just call it Minutes with Robyn or something.
Oh my gosh, I would love it. You guys, I am just so grateful for you doing this, and you're going to be our professional consultants when we talk about anything safety wise or any of that. But I really do appreciate you, all that you do for your community, for our family, for your family, and for me. So I love you guys.
Thank you. We love you.
Thank you for coming on. We appreciate you.
So yeah, KT, we'd love to come back.
Yay.
Cody, I just really loved talking with Ken and Robyn. They have so much to offer, and they're so great for the community. We're so lucky.
Aren't they delightful?
Oh, they're so delightful. So now I was thinking, time for Cold Prickly, Warm Fuzzy. And for those of you who don't remember or know, Cold Prickly and Warm Fuzzy are two different things we talk about. We take turns. Cold Prickly is just really crappy things that either we want to work on or that we just want to complain about for just a bit. And then Warm Fuzzy is something super special, awesome that either happened to us or that we're thinking about or that we want to share. So with saying that, I'll start off with the Cold Prickly so we can get it over with.
Okay.
Here's my Cold Prickly. Guess what happens in a little over 2 weeks?
What happens in 2 weeks, KT?
April 15th, tax day. I hate tax day. I haven't even started my taxes.
I mean, I hate doing taxes, and I'll tell you why, because I owe this year. I owe a ton. And so I just don't really, I'm not excited to see what that final number is, even though I've seen it already. I just have to click the button and do it. But what is it about your taxes that's like making you, what's the fear?
Well, like you said, it's because we have to pay, and I don't even want to think about it right now. It's just overwhelming. I'm sure once I sit down to actually do it and plug in the numbers, I'll be fine. So I guess, where do I want to be? Someone that doesn't have to pay taxes or someone that wants to pay taxes? I guess I'd rather be on the tax paying. And here's the thing, talking to people like Ken and Robyn, I'm glad I pay taxes because that pays their way, and we wouldn't have people like them if they weren't paid well.
Look at them stopping on the way back from a work event. Like, they weren't even on duty. Like, what the heck?
This year, when I pay my taxes, I'm going to think specifically of Ken and Robyn. And okay, I'm happy to do it. And I'm lucky. I get to do it.
Oh, that's actually a really nice positive spin, Katie. I like that.
Yeah, I just turned that into a warm fuzzy.
You're so good. It's like girl after my own heart. So my warm fuzzy is my son made the baseball team, but for a couple reasons hasn't been eligible to play. And he got in the car on last Monday after practice, and I turned to him and I said, "How was your day?" And he said, "Amazing." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I get to miss school Thursday and Friday." And then immediately I started hounding him about, if you're going to miss school Thursday and Friday, you've got to turn in those assignments and blah, 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 blah. Started immediately go into mom mode on him. And then he goes, "Mom." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "I get to miss school on Thursday and Friday." I said, "Yes, but, oh, you have a tournament out of town. You're going to your tournament." So he got to go on the travel team for his tournament. And I got to go to a couple of the games this weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And it was beautiful weather. The boys played fantastic. They took third in their tournament overall. And it was just such a lovely time. I have really enjoyed that. I miss baseball. I miss being a mom. I miss sitting in the stands supporting him. It was just lovely. I loved it.
And baseball means spring.
And then
such a great time
spring
of
is
year.
sunshine, and I love it. I know, it's so gorgeous. I love it.
Yeah, like I told you, sunflower seeds and sunburns. Oh, nothing like watching baseball.
And I have the sunburns, that's for sure. Well, we want to thank Robyn and Ken Newell, again, the police officers for the state of Utah. They're lucky to have two fine officers like them, and I'm very lucky to have them as my cousins. Remember to support your community, support your first responders, obey the law, and take action and claim freedom. And don't forget to take that CPR class.
Oh, will do. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to What You Gotta Do. The music for this podcast is written, produced, and performed by Joe Steitler. Production manager and host for What You Gotta Do podcast is Cody Hardy. Creative director is Matt Johnson. I'm KT Johnson, your co-host and editor. This has been a hell of a production.
Oi! What you gotta do is listen!